Hello everybody, AJ Ryzik here, and today we're taking a look at Manjaro KDE version 0.8.13. Now I've looked at Manjaro several times in the past, done quite a few reviews. I've looked at the Gnome, OpenBox, PECWM, the XFCE, but I think this is the first time I've taken a look at their KDE version. Um, and I like a lot of what I'm seeing here. They are using KDE Series 5. They've moved on from from KDE 4. And I've been playing with it a couple of days and really haven't had much in the way of stability issues. Uh, so, for all the, hey, KDE 5 or, Plasma 5 is unstable, it seems to be working pretty well here. And in fact, I think it's working better here in Manjaro than on Ubuntu 15.04. I haven't had any like desktop crashes. The one thing I had my screen recorder crash when I was first doing some initial testing of the distribution. But I will say that I had just done a large download of updates and had not rebooted my system um, when I was first running the screen recorder, so that might have been the cause of the freeze and crash, because after that reboot I have not been able to reproduce that issue. So maybe that has to do with updating and not rebooting right afterwards. Speaking of updates, this is from the Manjaro website, and just on the 13th of July they pulled down a major update to the 8.13 series, which, by the way, while I'm talking about the different Manjaro series, they are in the process of developing Manjaro 0. Would be 0.9, yeah, 0.9, and I believe is in the release candidate stage yet, but it has not officially been released yet. Still working out the bugs and doing a little more developing. So I hope to take a look at some of those the various desktop environments once 0.9 comes out. But anyway, we're taking a look at the KDE 8.13 today, and like I said, here's they list all the different updates that they had with the latest update release, all the different kernels supported, and that the kernel thing has long been one of my favorite features of Manjaro. And let me pull open. Where was that? It's in the Manjaro settings. If you go to the Manjaro settings manager and select kernel, you see all the kernels that are available to install on your system. And you can see right now I am running 318.18-1, which is the LTS, and they're recommended, and it tells you that that's the one that's installed. But any one of these kernels that are listed here you can install, and it's a simple matter of clicking install. You'll have to put in your password, and then boom, it installs it. You're going to want to do a reboot after installing that particular kernel. But changing kernels is that easy. Something that most distributions cannot claim. I mean, let's be honest. While you can go and upgrade your kernel in the Ubuntu-based distributions, it is a pain in the butt, and if you're not careful and aren't paying attention to what you're doing, you could royally screw up your system and need to do a fresh install. Don't have that issue here. I really like the fact that you can switch those kernels around, and for a lot of people, the kernel thing is not a big deal, especially really since probably I don't know, kernel 3.10. Most hardware runs great on, say, from that kernel on up, but you may run into a piece of software that does not, it doesn't particularly play well with a certain kernel, and you can either go and upgrade or regress your kernel and do it fairly quickly and easily and see if that's why you're having software issues. So, like I said, the ease of kernel changes has long been one of my favorite features of Manjaro. Um, Let me just pull this over here, my About System. So here we are running KDE Plasma version 5.3.2. The Qt version is 5.4.2. So we already talked about the kernel. We're running 3.18.18-1, and this is the 64-bit version. Well, let's take a look at the desktop here. And one thing that can be said for all Manjaro distributions is that they put a lot of effort into setting up a desktop that not only looks good but is ready to go out of the box. And certainly this release is no different. One of the things about KDE is that it is so configurable. One of the downsides is that you can literally spend hours upon hours upon hours configuring your desktop so that you get it just the way that you want it. Now, the way they've got this set up, it may not be to your liking, but on the other hand, it is set up in such a way that right out of the box you're ready to go. You really don't need to do any more configuration beyond what they have done, and have a very usable desktop. Now, like I said, it may not be your personal preference. Myself, I would much rather have the panel on the top rather on the bottom. But as far as the general layout goes, I like what they've done here. The theming is their own theming. I personally like the Breeze theme better than what they've got here, but it is a good looking theme. They definitely could have done a lot worse. Saying all that, the whole theming thing comes down to beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What one person loves, another's going to hate. So you're never going to be able to please everybody with that. I do like the flat look. I do like that they have made sure that everything seems to fit in. You don't have a situation where you open up such and such application and it looks out of place. Everything looks in place. The theming is consistent. So definitely 2 thumbs up on that. So let's take a walk through of what we've got for our desktop setup. First of all, there's this Manjaro welcome window, and this will pop up when you first start up the distribution. You can deselect it right here if you don't want it to pop up every time you start up the desktop. But it's got some real good links on here, a README section, release info, gets you to the wiki, the forums, the chat rooms, mailing list, how to get involved with the project, all that kind of stuff, as well as your various social media links. So that is nice to have available. Something a lot of other distributions should think about, especially if they are trying to appeal to a new user. Running across the bottom, starting over here in the left-hand corner, we've got our application launcher. Standard KDE application launcher. You can either go through, by categories, or you can just search for what you're looking for, and it'll start pulling up various items that match what you what you've typed. Whichever way you want to work, and then you also have you can pull from your history, and then also you've got your power buttons, your sleep, your shutdown, restart, that sort of thing. From there, we have a show desktop, which will minimize everything, and a quick launch for Dolphin, our file manager, and a quick launch for Firefox. And we have all of our running applications shown right there. And then moving over to the right hand side of the panel, we've got our desktop switcher, and we've got our trash can, volume control. And this is something that I like on the KDE 5 series, is that when you click it, it's just not a simple volume control. It gives you essentially all of your volume options right there without having to open, okay, go to this menu, then go to here, then go to here, then go to here, and finally you can adjust your settings. We've got our clipboard manager, network manager, and then we've got that show hidden icon. We've got our notifications, Octopi, which is for our updates and for package management. Well, you can see all of the various icons that just aren't being displayed right now, but are kind of hidden. And then over here at the far right hand side is our time dates, and if you click it, it'll get you your calendar right there. One thing, not a problem, but one thing to point out is that they still there's for KDE 5 series, we still do not have an integration for if you use Google Calendar, for being able to display those Google Calendar events on your calendar here, which is something that I really want them to get that done, because that is something that I use, essentially on a daily basis. So I'd really like to see that integrated. Pretty well stocked as far as applications go. Got a pretty big variety of applications, not a whole lot of overlap, and that's something we see in not a lot of different distributions, but several, where you might have 3 or 4 different applications that do the exact same thing, and it's like, why such an overlap? They really haven't done that here, and we've got somewhat of a mix of both Qt based and GTK based applications, which it's not necessarily a bad thing, but at the same time, it does require some extra library, so you end up being a little heavier as far as RAM, CPU use, that sort of thing. But let's just go and look at some of what the things that we've got here. Under games, Steam is pre-installed, so it's just basically ready to rock as far as put in your Steam account and all that, and it'll set up for you. In the graphics department, we've got Krita for our for digital painting. We've got an image converter, Ocular for document viewing, LibreOffice Draw. This exposure blending, that is well, let me go and pull it open so you can take a look at it if you're not familiar with it. Basically, this is a way to build some HDR images. So if you're not into photography, this is probably a completely useless application for you. But for those of you that do some photography, you probably know what I'm talking about. Personally, I have never used this application, and really haven't had a chance to play around with it in the past couple of days. But it's nice to have an application included that will do that for you. Of course, the thing is that a lot of modern digital cameras do it in the camera anyway, so it might be one of those applications that's seen its day already. Anyway, we've got that. We've got our image scanning application, KDE Image Viewer. We got GwenView. We got a stitching program for making panoramas, and photo layout manager. Let me scroll down here a little bit. We've got Digicam for photo management. Photo viewer is show photo, and scalable graphics, Carbon, and K-Snapshot, which of course is our screen capture program. Under the internet category, we have KGet which is a download manager, and I love having a download manager as opposed to depending on my web browser for downloads. IRC client, we've got K Conversation. Under email, we've got Thunderbird, and I was expecting to see Kmail, but I can understand going with Thunderbird. Tons and tons of people are familiar with it. It is probably the most used of the email clients, and it's easy to configure, which you cannot say that about Kmail, and tons and tons of extensions. So I can understand going with it as opposed to a native KDE application. And then, of course, we've got Firefox as our web browser, which is a good overall browser. Although, once again, I was expecting to see, Reconq or maybe some other KDE-centric web browser. But apparently not. Under Multimedia, we've got K3B for our disk burning. I added GUVC video and there it is, simple screen recorder. I added those two for doing my screen recording, which, by the way, both of those were in the repos. No trouble adding those or having to compile from source or anything like that. VLC for our media player. Couldn't ask for a better media player. It will play anything you throw at it. Cantata for our music player. At first I wasn't familiar with this, but I had been playing around with it for a few days and actually added it to Ubuntu because really like it. It's simple, easy to use, basic interface. Here, let me open it up just so you can take a look at it. I don't have any music set up on this right now, so I mean you really can't see anything, but real simple interface, easy to use. Play, you can make up playlists. It'll find album covers, that sort of thing for you. So nothing really complicated, but it does what you ask of it, and no crashes, burns, and all that kind of stuff. So no complaints there. Let's see, where was I? I think that was, let's see, we talked about that. KMix for our sound mixer, and Kdenlive for our video editor, which Kdenlive is what I use for editing all of the videos for my channel. It works great. Plenty of plugins that give it lots of features. Not too complicated to learn. A little bit of a learning curve, but not too complicated. Anyway, under Office, we have the LibreOffice Office Suite, and then we've also got a few other things thrown in. We got a few things from the Calligra Office Suite. We've got Brain Dump, and then we also have Carbon, which is a vector graphics program, much like Inkscape is. And that kind of covers all the stuff in the Office category. And then in our settings, we've got our Manjaro settings. We've also got our standard KDE settings. And then utilities, we've got our text editor listed here, and our tray utility, archiving tool, clipboard manager, and then we've got our various disk using statistics. We've got the KDE alarm, K-alarm, the HP print manager, our calculator, and USB key writer, which is nice. I know it's from SUSE Studio, but having used this image writer before, very nice application for writing ISOs. Earlier I talked about Octopi being our package manager and update manager. A very nice application. If you're not familiar with it and you're familiar with Synaptic Package Manager on the Debian-based distributions, it's a very similar application. You can use it to find packages, whatever applications you are looking for. you can browse, or if you know specifically what you're looking for, um, like let's say for example the game 0AD, it'll find it for you. If we wanted to install it, we just go and right click install, and then to install we'll just come up here to the commit button, and it'll give you a little overview there of what you're going to install. Click yes, ask for your password, and it'll go out, retrieve those packages, and install everything for you. Besides installing software, it can also go and work as your update manager. Now, typically, when you start up your distribution, it will do in the background. Octopi will run a check to see if you've got software to be updated. If you do, you'll receive a notification that hey, you need to upgrade or update packages, whatever. You'll open this application up, and then this little up arrow right here, the system upgrade, you click that, and it'll basically tell you everything that needs to be updated. You'll approve it, and boom, your system is updated. So simple, easy to use. I've used this on other Manjaro distributions in the past. Never had any problems with it. Seems to work great. What else do I need to talk? Oh, memory use. I almost forgot to mention memory use. This is a little bit of a memory hog. Baseline memory, at least for me, was around 800 megs of RAM. Once I got a whole bunch of applications running, I was using a couple of gigs. So this is definitely not a distribution to use if you've only got, say, 1 or 2 gigs of RAM. You definitely need probably, I would say, at least 4, to be able to run everything and not be using a lot of swap space and that sort of thing. And my guess at least part of it is that you've got such a variety of different software here. You've probably got a lot of libraries open, and that's probably lending to a lot of memory use. CPU use was fairly heavy as well. So definitely not a distribution for an older computer with 1 or 2 gigs of RAM. So my overall impressions of this distribution have been pretty positive. And I had that one crash way at the beginning, and like I said, I downloaded and installed something like 900 updates. And then did not reboot my system, so it's very possible that I brought that crash onto myself. Other than that, I have not had any problems. Everything has worked. No freezes and glitchiness, any of that kind of stuff. Which, when Plasma 5 first came out, there were plenty of bugs, and they've gradually been getting the bugs worked out. And we may be to the point now where 99.9% of the bugs have been worked out. There still are a lot of like widgets and that sort of thing that need to be ported over to Plasma 5. Especially like a couple of the launchers, like the Home Run launcher. Both the full screen and the smaller Home Run launcher, they have not been ported over yet. I mentioned the issue with the calendar, and I think that may have to do with the Google API. But in any case, that is not available on Plasma 5 yet, and there's a bunch of other things that aren't there yet. But as far as the general bugginess, I think that they have pretty much worked that out, at least from my experience playing with this distribution for the past few days. Granted, I have not, in a couple of days of testing, there is no way for me to run the full gamut of every single application under KDE and how every single thing works. But just what I have done in the past few days, everything seems to work good. So anyway, if let me know what you think about Manjaro KDE 813. If you've used it, how has it worked out for you? Um, and general comments about Plasma 5 and all that kind of stuff. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, all that kind of stuff. Leave it all down below. I'll try to get to it as soon as possible. If you like the video, give us a big old thumbs up, and I will see you on my next video cast. Thanks a lot.